What is going on, everyone? Jax here, and today we are behind the wheel of the 2021 Ford Mustang Mach-E GT. Now, I'm going to start with something that's probably not as exciting as you guys were hoping, and that's the fact that the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT, which I'm sure the regular Mach-E can do as well, has phenomenal one-pedal driving ability. And if you've never driven an EV before, a lot of EVs have the ability to drive via one pedal. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that every time your foot is on the gas, you're moving forwards, and every time you let off the gas at all, the car begins regenerative braking. And I have to admit, in the time that I've had this car, this is the end of my week with the Mach-E GT, I have gotten so accustomed to the regenerative braking. I love it. It's awesome. It's so seamless. This car is so smooth to operate. And to have that kind of smoothness and efficiency combined with this car's insane power and performance, I don't want to say that that's sort of the inevitable victory that EVs are going to have over their combustion counterparts, but like, it kinda is. It's just so easy to operate this vehicle and sort of satisfying. Now, what about the fun stuff? Well, we're gonna turn on to the handling road here and go through that in the Mach-E GT, assuming this person from Alabama decides to make the turn today. So going down this first rough bit is actually going to highlight kind of my main dynamic criticism with the Mach-E GT. The suspension damping is pretty firm. I mean, this is supposed to be the sportier model after all, but over this patch of rough pavement, it's firm, but like a lot of Fords, it moves around a little, like 20% more than I want it to. And that's not necessarily like a deal breaker or anything. But like for similar comparison, I had the BMW X5 xDrive E45 plug-in hybrid, whatever you want to call it, down this road. And it just like absorbed all of this stuff like absolute butter. And it was very, very firmly damped compared to, you know, a soft, boring SUV. And this Mach-E GT is firmly damped, but it just moves around a little bit more. It's still quite comfortable. If you shift this down into its like lower drive modes, Whisper or whatever it's called, it is very comfortable and compliant. I also really like the steering in this mode. Here comes the big bump. See, it's not a really big deal. It's actually like a bit soft. There's just a little bit of that extra motion. I do really enjoy the steering. I love the way the steering wheel feels. I love the leather. It's kind of like a little bit almost soft in the grippy area, and I kind of like that. And it turns in really quickly for something that weighs like the better part of 5,000 pounds. But it gives this heavyish SUV a sort of feeling of tossability that you wouldn't expect in an EV. Dynamically, this is probably one of the better EVs that you can buy. It's more fun and kind of feels more capable than what I've heard some of the other EVs feel like. Now, I haven't driven a Tesla, and I definitely haven't driven it back to back with this, but I think from what I'm reading, this thing has a pretty exciting chassis for a fully electric vehicle, especially an SUV. Unbridled is what I've been driving it in most of the time. That's what gives you the full power and capability at all times, and I absolutely love it. Braking is pretty good. The brakes, they don't really feel natural, but they're not like overly grabby for regenerative brakes. And I've been doing it in one pedal, so who really cares? I highly suggest you get used to one pedal driving and just enjoy the Mach-E in one pedal driving because it's fantastic. These seats are awesome. Comfortable, supportive. They've got kind of shoulder bolstering up here. This one's squeaking a bit, but like I always say, this is a test car, so we're gonna be forgiving of that. In general, the quality of the interior feels pretty good, so it's probably just because this car's been beat up on. I apologize for the strobe effect of the shadows. I hope none of you are epileptic, but you know, I can only film when I can film. But I really, really like these seats, and I really like these digital displays. I mentioned this in the main review. This infotainment system, it works way better than I actually thought it was gonna work. It's a lot of fun. I really, really like the gauge cluster screen. It's crisp and bright and informative, and it just looks pretty cool. One complaint, I am 6'6". I have the steering wheel exactly where I want it, and the top of the gauge cluster is cut off by the steering wheel. So maybe they didn't take into account obnoxiously sized drivers, but I can still see everything. It's just, you know, just the very top. Overall, this is a very well-sorted SUV. The suspension is firm and sporty, if a little busy. It controls its roll good. It doesn't feel like it weighs as much as it does. I mean, you're aware that this is a heavy EV, but it doesn't feel obnoxiously heavy. And it can do this. Oh my God. In case you're wondering, that's 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. And guys, that's like as fast as you ever want to go. I mean, this thing can embarrass almost any car that you pull up to, and almost any car that you're likely to pull up next to, unless there's like McLaren Sennas driving around your neighborhood or something. Yes, I know the C8 Corvette's technically faster, but that is just an enormous amount of torque. It's like 634 pound-feet of torque. It's just gobs and gobs of torque. And the power delivery, of course, because it's an EV, the power delivery is smoother than Ryan Phillippe in Cruel Intentions.
Can you imagine what this will do for my reputation?
All around, this is an incredibly exciting and enjoyable vehicle to drive. And it's a very enjoyable vehicle to live with. I can't stress that aspect of the Mach-E enough, that this is a very enjoyable vehicle to live with. I've had a wonderful time daily driving this because of the EV platform. It's a little more spacious than a normal car of this size, so my tall family can fit in it fine. Cargo space is, you know, somewhat compromised by the sloping rear and the kind of shape of the car, but I'll take that trade-off for the way that this thing looks. I think the GV70 is more, you know, kind of interesting to look at, but this is sort of more classically muscular and handsome, if that makes sense. Also, this car is way faster than the GV70. The GV70 is going to be more luxurious, but it is a traditional powertrain, and this is fully electric. And I'm only comparing it to the GV70 because they're not far off in size and price. Go check out that review if you want to know what I think of the GV70. Spoiler alert, I think it's the best car I drove in 2021. But it's 2022 now, and I'm driving the Mach-E GT and loving every second of it. I know I said this in the main review, and I'm going to reiterate it here to wrap up. This is Ford's first effort. Let that sink in for just a minute. This is Ford's first fully electric effort. And it's awesome. I mean, this is essentially a home run. If the charging infrastructure supported it a little bit better, it would be a home run. And that's not really Ford's fault. So I want you to kind of consider that. Think about that for a second, and let me know if you would be willing to make the switch to a full EV, especially one like this Mach-E GT. Because if I were to make the switch today, I think I would be giving the Mach-E GT a very hard look. Guys, if you like this video, please consider liking, please consider subscribing. I always try to bring you all the information I can, but if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments for me down below. And of course, until next time, ride safe, drive safe, especially if you have over 600 pound-feet of torque. And I will catch you in the next review, all right? Peace.